Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning again for another episode of The Howl. I am your host, Luis G. And tonight on The Howl, we're not doing rumors, we're doing rules. The kind of rules that decide who gets the keys, who gets inspected, and who gets parked. We're talking English proficiency, the 2026 non-domiciled CDL changes, speed limiters, road checks, and the fight over independent contract status. And I want this episode to be clear. This isn't politics, this isn't gossip, and this isn't somebody's cussing on Facebook. This is a language that actually governs the industry. And so, with that being said, let's talk about the English proficiency. And people love to argue emotionally about this, but the regulations treat it as a safety and enforcement issue. In the first place it shows up is at the CDL skills test. And here's the exact section. You can go ahead and take a look at it if you want on your own time. This is Title 49, Code of Federal Regulations in Section 383.133, subsection C in paragraph 5. And here's what it says. Interpreters are prohibited during the administrations of a skill test. It also says applicants must be able to understand and respond to verbal commands and instructions in English during that test. So that's basically the gate right there. If a person cannot take that skill test in English, the rule says that you do not get through that part of the process. And that is not opinion. That is just standard. It's a fact. You need to be able to at least understand the rules of the road and read a sign. Otherwise, for example, you're going down a hill and you pass a sign that says that the exit ramp is closed, but you didn't read that because you couldn't understand that. So to me, this is just my opinion. To me, it is common sense that a person should be able to at least understand the basic English language. And it doesn't stop at the test. The qualification rule says the same thing out on the road. In the Title 49 CFR section 391.11 in subsection B in paragraph 2 says a driver must be able to read and speak the English language sufficiently. It doesn't say perfectly, it just says sufficiently to converse with the public and to understand highway traffic signs and signals in English. Now, again, to me, this is just common sense because what if you get pulled over and you can't communicate with the police officer? This is just a standard. I'm not saying that you need to, that you should be able to speak perfectly and read perfectly. No, it's just regulation, learn English, be able to communicate yourself. And this is going to even help you at a shipper or a receiver, when you're talking to your dispatcher, whatever it is, it's definitely going to be a helpful tool. And in plain English, the rule is telling you this: enough English to handle signs, signals, the public, and officials. Not poetry, not perfection, but functional. Real world, real level English. And to me, that just makes sense. A scale house instructions is not going to wait for translation. A detour sign is not going to allow you to slow down in be able to read it perfectly. A road sign inspection is not going to become a language workshop. So when I say that the road speaks English, signals, and enforcement, I'm not trying to be dramatic. I'm telling you exactly how the rules are written. And to me, at least, I think that makes sufficient sense. I'm not saying that the person needs to be able to write poetry or anything, but just be able to communicate and read the signs properly. That's all. Now, before we get into all the details of the show, I would like to just briefly describe a little bit about how we in Twin Wolf got started and all the bumps in the road that we had to overcome in order to be successful where we are today. So it is very important to know that in order for any business to thrive, not just to exist, but to actually thrive, needs to follow the rules of the road, in my particular case. Now, I would agree that a lot of rules and regulations and laws may sound a little sometimes unnecessary, sometimes not really common sense, especially knowing that a lot of the people that make the rules and make the laws are sitting somewhere in an office where they have never even touched the truck, much less being on the road. But unfortunately, these are the people that make the business run. And we have to do our best to follow these laws so that our business can succeed in today's market. Now, when I first got started on being on the road and starting my own business, it was very challenging. It was very challenging because back in those days, I didn't really know anything about the transportation industry. I didn't know how to run up a successful logistics business. So it was a lot of headaches, a lot of researching on my own. I had to do a whole lot of reading. I had to go on Google and find out the details. What do I need to do? How do I need to do it? What's the proper way to doing it? It's a lot of information, and if you're unfamiliar with it, if this is your first go at it, it will definitely be a challenge. And that is my goal with this show. The goal is to help you guys minimize that learning curve, because I really hit my head a lot of times learning how to do this. You know, I've lost money, I've lost businesses, I've lost clients just because I didn't know what to do in the proper way of doing it. I had to hit my head a lot of times, and a lot of those hits were expensive. Now, it took me a long time to understand the business and to understand the way it operates. And so my goal with you is to help you be able to be successful and to be able to make a good living for yourself and your families. So what I'm going to do in this show today in particular, I'm going to read through a lot of the new laws that are coming up. I'm going to read through just a few of them, because there are literally thousands. So this is just going to be a brief explanation of the new rules coming up that are going to affect those new businesses and some existing businesses. But the industry is changing. It's evolving. It's changing every day, and so we need to stay on top of it in order for us to be successful. And my ultimate goal with this show is to help you guys. That's my idea. That's my goal, is to help you guys to not hit your head, to be able to thrive. And if I can just help one of you guys, then I made a good job today. Back in the day, at least back in when I started, I know it may not sound like a long time ago, but to me it kind of does. It was very difficult for me to get this going. It was a lot of researching on my own. I never had a mentor. I never had a friend to tell me what to do or how to do it. And that's why I want to help you guys with this, just to minimize that learning curve as much as possible. In other episodes, maybe we can talk about the proper way of hiring drivers, the proper way of getting fuel cards, the proper way of getting a trailer. Which trailer do you need, and what areas you should run it in, what you should do with your truck. We will even talk about the brands of the trucks, which ones I think they're best. You know, I drove pretty much every brand. The only one that I haven't driven is an International. I've heard they're not that good, but I can't really say for myself because I never drove one. So those are just ideas that I plan on help you guys in the future. But today we're going to talk specifically about a couple rules and regulations that are coming up. Some that did not come up, some of them just fell off, thank God. So we do have a very interesting show ahead of us. It may be a little bit complicated. We will have a lot of specific laws, and I'm going to quote the sections and the paragraphs where they are. So just stay with me. It may be a little bit boring to begin with, but trust me, it's going to help you in the long run. Coming up right after this little break, we're going to talk about the other rules and regulations that are coming up affecting all of us in the industry. So stay tuned. You'll get a lot more details as we come back. Welcome back to the Howl. And we were just talking about the English proficiency in the road test and the road signs and everything. Now let's move a little bit to the legal status in the 2026 non-domiciled CDL rule. Now this little new rule that is implemented is actually not theoretical. It has an effective date and it matters. The official publication federal registration document in 2026 -02965 in the date section says the final rule is effective March 16, 2026. That's important, guys. March 16, 2026. Now, here's where the actual regulatory text matters. In 49 CFR section 383.71 in subsection F in paragraph 3 in subparagraph I says that To be eligible for non-domiciled CLP or CDL, an applicant domiciled in a foreign jurisdiction must have lawful immigration status in the United States and provide evidence of lawful immigration status. And the definite section tells you what the evidence is. In 49 CFR section 383.5 says the evidence includes an unexpired foreign passport in an unexpired form I-94 or I-94A, showing one of the classifications H2A or H2B or E2. And if you look at the FMCSA's own 2026 frequently asked questions, then it's even more plainly. No other immigration status will be eligible for a non-domiciled CLP or CDL. So if you want a clear version for radio, here it is. The rule now narrows that lane. Lawful immigration status alone is not enough in the abstract. The evidence has to be lined up with the categories the regulation now points to. And those categories are H2A, H2B, and E2. And if you're a driver, that means don't wait until renewal date to figure out what your paperwork says. If you're a carrier, do not wait until credentials expire to find out half your capacity was built on assumptions. You need to start acting now and get on top of it because you don't want to be left out without a job, guys. This is one of those moments where compliance is either proactive or expensive. There's really no middle ground. You guys have to stay on top of it and get on top of it now. And again, guys, I'm not trying to talk politics here. This is just the rules and regulations that are new, and we're just giving you guys an update so you guys can stay behind it and stay on top of it, okay? It's not, this is not a political commentary. It's just plain English, black and white. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the other regulations that are also affecting us. Is going to be the speed limiters. That's a big one. But luckily, we got a little bit of a win on this one. We'll be right back. And welcome back again. And we are now talking about the speed limiters. Now, this is where we actually got a little bit of a win. Speed limiters. The official withdrawal notice is 90 Federal Register 34822, published July 24 in 2025. And the dates section says FMCSA and NHTSA withdraws the NPRM published September 7, 2026. As of July 24, 2025, it also says the FMCSA withdrew the 2022 advance notice that same day. And that matters because withdrawn is different from delayed. Withdrawn means that a specific federal rulemaking track got pulled back. Basically, they just canceled it. Now, that does not mean it's irrelevant. It does mean carriers cannot govern trucks. It means the blanket federal mandate did not survive the process. So we basically don't have to worry about the speed limiters anymore. And for drivers, that is important because real road safety is not always one number on a spreadsheet. Traffic flow, grades, weather, merges, and passing all matters. Everything matters. Anybody who has actually driven knows that. There are times that you may need to be going over 65 miles per hour, for example, to pass. You don't want to be that road driver that is on the left lane for like 3 miles because there's no way of passing one mile per hour over the other guy next to you. So this to me is a big win. Just thinking about the flow of traffic, it will be way better to not have a speed limiter in the truck, because guys, we know this. It's impossible passing a melting truck next to us. They go like, 62 miles per hour? It's terrible. It's terrible. And now let's move on to the next subject, which is road checks. So let's get tactical. Road checks 2026 runs May 12 through May 14. And this year emphasizes is not vague. The CVSA says this year's international road checks will focus on cargo securement and electronic logging devices, the ELD, tampering and falsifications. So guys, basically, I'm just saying, don't mess with it, right? So let's break that apart because of those, both of those sections line up with actual federal regulations. For example, let's get with the ELD tampering. First, ELD tampering is section 49 CFR section 395.8 in subsection E in paragraph 2. It says, no driver or motor carrier may disable signals or otherwise tamper with the EOD so that device does not accurately record and retain required data. In paragraph 3 goes even further. It says a driver or motor carrier cannot permit or require another person to do that either. So basically, you're not supposed to do that, and your carrier is not supposed to force you to do that. So the point is simple. They are not just looking at sloppy logs. They are looking at for manipulation, interference, and fake cleanliness. And if your records look too perfect for real life, this may invite a closer look. So it cannot be 100% perfect because nobody is 100% perfect. There will be a mistake somewhere, but I'm talking about a mistake like, oh, I just forgot to put this as a yard move. And a yard move cannot be 2 hours. You know, a yard move is just 5 minutes, just a little quick move. That's understandable, and I think any police officer would understand that. But now, if you put a yard move and you took 200 miles, that's different. Now, the other thing that they're looking at is the cargo securement. I would say that this is particularly important for flatbedders, but it doesn't only apply to flatbedders. So now, the cargo securement, it is on 49 CFR section 393.100 in subsection B. It says cargo must be secured to prevent the cargo from leaking, spilling, blowing, or falling from the motor vehicle. In section 393.100, subsection C, says cargo must be secured to prevent shifting so that the vehicle's stability or maneuverability is adversely affected. And that is the backbone of securement law right there. Do not lose your load. Do not let it shift. Do not let it affect the truck's balance, stability, or the maneuverability. I hope I said that right this time. So for road checks, the message is clear. If your straps are questionable, if your chains are tired, if your anchor points are a prayer instead of a plan, that is not the week to roll the dice. You need to be on top of it, guys. They are going to be looking at this all over the place. And you want clear logs, honest logs, and secure loads, and zero gimmicks. This is the week to be boring because boring is what passes the inspections. And another thing that I would like to add to that, this is not obvious. This is not a law. This is just a me suggestion. Keep your trucks clear. Clear, I mean clean. I mean, remove the mud from the tires. Have it pretty. Look pretty. If you don't look like you need an inspection, they won't give you one. Okay. So have everything looking nice. If you're the type of driver that has a bunch of trash in the truck, guys, this is the week to clean it up. Just clean it up, because when that officer pulls on the passenger side and opens your door, and then a bunch of Coke bottles fall off, that's just going to be an invitation to do an inspection. Because not on top of it, now you have to get out of the truck and pick up all that trash. That's just calling for it. Come on, guys. Come on. This is just asking for it. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about independent contractor status. And that is another thing that is very important for owner-operators. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, you guys. And the next section that we're going to talk about is the independent contractor status. Okay? This is our last segment for today. In independent contract status, because everybody loves saying owner-operator until the law asks, all right, prove it, you know? So in California, the basic rule is a labor code section 2775 subsection B in paragraph 1. And the status says a worker shall be considered an employee rather than an independent contractor unless the hiring entity demonstrates the required conditions. Then come the 3 parts people call the ABC test. The hiring entity has to show the worker is free from control and direction, is doing work outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business, and is customarily engaged in an independently established trade or business of the same nature. So the serious takeaway is this: independence is not just a vibe. It is not just a tax form. In a state using that test, independence is something that has to survive legal scrutiny. If you want to stay independent, then your operation has to look like a real business in reality, not just in conversation. So just to understand this better, Part A is basically the control. Part A asks whether the worker is free from the control and direction of hiring an entity. both of the contract and in real life. That means the paper matters, but real world practice matters more. So if a company is telling you when to show up, where to go, how to do the work, what routes to take, how to present yourself, and basically running your daily life and that starts looking less like independence and more like employment. And this is important because the labor commissioner guidance says a business does not have to control every tiny detail to still have the kind of control an employer normally has over an employee. That means you cannot hide behind technicalities and say, well, they don't control everything. The question is whether they control enough. Part B is where a lot of trucking arrangements starts to get uncomfortable. The law says the worker must conform work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. Now, let's talk a little bit of common sense. If a trucking company hires a driver to haul freight, that is not some side activity outside the company's business, right? That is the business. That is the heart of the business. And the state's own guidance gives examples. If a retail store hires an outside plumber, that is basically outside the store usual business, right? Now, if a bakery hires cake decorators to decorate cakes that it sells, that is inside the usual business. So apply that logic to trucking. If a company moves freight for money and you are the one moving freight, part B becomes very hard to satisfy. And that is why the issue has been such a fight. It's not just semantics. It goes directly to whether the owner-operator model fits the test cleanly in every situation. And in some cases, it doesn't. Now, let's talk about part C. And this is where a lot of people get exposed. Part C says the worker has to be customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as the work being performed. In plain English, the law is asking, are you actually in business for yourself, or are you just working for one company under a different label? And the guidance gets very specific here. It says the hiring entity cannot just declare you independent by calling you that in a contract. It also says the business operation has to actually exist now, not maybe later, not eventually, but not in theory. It has to be now. The state points to things like incorporation, licenses, advertising, and routinely offering your services to the public or other customers. In other words, if you want to be treated like a real business, you need to act like one before anyone questions you. And here's the line every listener needs to hear. The Labor Commissioner's guidance says that if a worker livelihood depends on a single employer, Part C is not met. That is a brutal line because a lot of so-called independent arrangements are really just one company dependence with extra paperwork. It's not really independence. Now, let's make this painfully clear for trucking people. Just because you own the truck does not actually make you an independent contractor. And there is now a statute that says specifically that. California Labor Code Section 2775.5, effective January 1st in 2026, says that mere ownership of a vehicle, including a commercial vehicle used to provide labor or services to pay, does not make that person an independent contractor. And that is huge because a lot of people still think, well, I own a truck, so I'm independent. California just spelled it out. Truck ownership by itself does not answer the classification question. And the same section says that if the ABC conditions are not satisfied and the vehicle owner is really an employee, and then the employee is entitled to reimbursement for use of that vehicle, and that tells you how seriously the law takes this. And here's another reason why the trucking people need to pay attention. California's guidance says that some exceptions do not cover transportation and trucking. For example, the referral agency exception expressly excludes transportation, trucking, delivery, and courier services. So you cannot just grab an exception from another industry and assume it carries over. That means trucking businesses have to be very careful about pretending they're a broad shortcut. In a lot of cases, there isn't. So here's my takeaway, and it's a serious one. If you want to protect the owner-operator model, you have to protect the reality of independent business. That means real contracts, real control over your operation, real customers, real licenses, real marketing, real risk, and real independence. Because if the arrangement looks like employment, sounds like employment, and depends on one company like an employment, then the law is increasingly willing to call it employment. And that is the real war over independence. Not slogans, not social media posts, not bumper sticker politics. The real war is whether your business structure can survive scrutiny when somebody finally asks you for proof. So if you're listening tonight as an owner operator, ask yourself 3 hard questions. Who controls my work? Am I doing my work outside the hiring entity core business, or am I a core business? And if this company disappeared tomorrow, would I still have a real business standing on its own? And if the answers make you uncomfortable, that discomfort is telling you something, and you have to listen to that something. So to conclude with everything, when I step back and look at everything we talked about tonight, the bigger picture feels pretty clear to me. The industry is being pushed toward tighter standards, tighter accountability, and less room for confusion, less room for shortcuts, and less room for people to pretend they're doing things the right way when they're really not. Whether we're talking about language, legal status, inspections, logging, cargo securement, or even independent contractor status, the message is the same. The business is getting more serious, not less. And honestly, I think that forces all of us to ask a hard question. Are we really operating like professionals, or are we just hoping nobody looks too closely? Because really, trucking is not a game. It's not just a job title. It's not just a truck payment, and it's not just a hustle. It's responsibility. It's safety. It's people's lives on the road. It's families depending on us to make it home. And if we want the public to respect what we do, and we want the government to stop treating drivers like problems to be managed, then we also have to be honest about the fact that professionalism matters. Standards matter. Discipline matters. I also think there's something deeper underneath all of this. A lot of drivers today feel squeezed by regulations, compliance, classifications, squeezed by people making decisions who don't always understand what it's like to actually live this life. And I get that, I do. But frustration alone won't protect your livelihood. Emotion alone won't save your authority, your license, your inspection records, and your business. The only thing that will truly protect you is being sharp, knowing the rules, staying ready before the pressure hits, handling your operation like it actually matters. And for the people that are out there trying to stay independent, trying to build something of their own, trying to hold on to the owner-operator spirit, I'll say this. Independence has to be real. It can't just be a label. If you want to be respected like a business, you have to move like a business. Think like one, document like one, and carry yourself like one. And at the end of the day, guys, that's what tonight was really about. I don't want to impose fear, not politics, not outrage, just the reality. Plain black and white. This road out here is unforgiving, and this industry doesn't give many second chances. So my advice is simple. Take your craft seriously, take your name seriously, and take your future seriously, because nobody's going to care about your livelihood more than you do. And that's the strength I want to leave you with tonight. I want to leave you with the thought that everything we do on the road matters and is going to come back to either harm us or protect us. And before we go, guys, I want to leave you with one final thought. Everything we talked about tonight points in the same direction, in the same truth. This industry is changing, and is getting less forgiving. The room for mistakes is smaller. The room for excuses is smaller. And the room for pretending you're doing things right when you're really cutting corners is disappearing fast. So my closing argument is simple. If trucking is your livelihood, then treat it like it matters. Treat your license like it matters. Treat your name like it matters. Treat your business like it matters, because out here, reputation is everything. Reputation matters more than anything. Discipline, safety, and the people who survive in this business are actually the people who prepared before the pressure shows up. This is bigger than paperwork. It's bigger than inspections, bigger than politics, and it's about responsibility. It's about professionalism, and it's about whether we as drivers, carriers, and business owners are going to rise to the standard or be crushed by it. My belief is this: the men and women who take this craft seriously, who stay sharp, who stay honest, who stay ready, these are the ones who will be still standing when the dust settles. So keep your heads up, stay alert, stay disciplined, protect your livelihood, protect your future, and never let anyone care more about your business than you do. And again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. You were listening to The Howl. I am your host, Luis G. God bless you all, and God bless America. Thank you. I'll see you later.